Hollywood's human ashtray, Sean Penn, telling Bill Maher he would not sit down for dinner with Trump.
The only reason I would not accept an invitation is because I see no, it's a long flight. And I see no,
Really? You'll meet with
I don't think
Castro and Hugo Chavez, but not the President of the United States?
Yeah, I saw good results come out of some of those things. I just personally wouldn't trust anything that was said in the room, including the personality.
You know, Jesse, I was watching that, and I just got, like, hypnotized by, what's his name again? Sean Penn's shoes. Do we have a picture of the shoes there? Check those out.
What the?
Wow. Aren't those amazing? I think this is I think he's trying to set some kind of fashion trend.
So you have a hole in a shoe, and he's wrapped tape around it.
Yes.
Is that what I'm looking at right there?
Yes, exactly. I think is he down on his luck, or is this
that's
some
like
kind of...
when you're worth $100 million and you wear shredded jeans.
Really?
So I used to think Sean Penn was a traitor when I was younger, and he would go interview Chavez and Castro, and I was like, oh, how dare you. But then I listened to an interview he did, and he seemed intellectually curious about these people and wanted to see for himself, wanted to get past the propaganda. So I respected that. But then when Maher hit him between the eyes and said, you won't even meet with the president, but you meet with these tyrants, he had nothing. I mean, I would interview Tampon, and I've invited Tampon on the show, and he refuses. That's why I am the most tolerant host on cable.
You know, I'm not a doctor, Dana, but I look at this angle, and he definitely has to go to a doctor. There is a swollen node on his neck, which is unmistakable. Again, I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but I have saved many lives just by watching TV.
It is sort of weird to watch a show where you've got, like, vodka and cigarettes and shoes that look like somebody's homeless. Right. I think he's afraid to have dinner with Trump because he's afraid he would be charmed. And he doesn't want to take the risk of losing his identity as a never-Trumper.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly why they're giving crap to Maher, because he, quote, was charmed when he really wasn't Kennedy. I don't know, man. I'm watching this. I'm a little worried about the guy.
He looks like Randy Weingarten and Nick Nolte had a very old baby.
Yes.
A very old baby who's quite unwell. Yeah, I mean, I've known Sean Penn for years, and he doesn't look good, but also, like, he's beholden to the progressives.
Yeah.
If he loses them, he has nothing politically. And the way he looks, he's really given up on himself and acting. So, yeah, but he still has to play this popularity contest. But the smartest thing for him would be to find one avenue, even if it's a very small lane where he and the president agree, and really capitalize on that, because Trump is the kind of person where he would acquiesce if that would make the world or the country a better place. But, you know, he's too much of an egotistical narcissist to do that, which means he'll never be Bono.
You know, Harold, I look at Bill Maher and Sean Penn in the same picture, and Maher is older than him, but looks maybe 10 to 15 years younger. Much like you, Harold.
Thank you. I appreciate that lead in. You know, we talk about this a lot. Being around this table, I often say at the start, it's good to be back around the table because I value and respect the chance to be able to sit, disagree, listen, be stimulated, hopefully persuade a little bit, and even be persuaded myself. During the civil rights era, civil rights leaders, black leaders who were being denied full participation in America, were being hanged, who were being arrested, being denied basic opportunities, would still sit down with the very people who were doing that denying to try to make the country better. It's a famous story that Tip O'Neill and Tip O'Neill and President Reagan, who had very different politics, very different upbringings, very different outlooks on life, would often get together to try to find ways to make the country better. We are so divided as a country today that we find ourselves at a strategic disadvantage, not only in trying to figure out and solve problems at home, but even how we present around the world. I was glad to hear Bill Maher counter Sean Penn like he did. He did it in his own way and basically suggested maybe you should take a look at your own politics. You may dislike Trump so much, but if you can do these things, how can you not meet with a person that's your fellow countryman elected as president? And it goes both ways. So I was excited to see this. I hope they both learn from it. And I hope we make progress as a result.
That's what Dana said. If you're very confident in what you believe in, you should have no problems meeting with somebody. He's not confident in what he believes in.
But he's very comfortable meeting with Castro.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
There you go. Up next, 10 years since Trump's golden escalator ride.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.